person once stated, live every day as though it were your last. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. We've all heard that statement. In Project 10, I'm tasked with trying to inspire my audience. What I'm hoping is that when I'm done telling you the story about my wife, that it will inspire you as it has me. On September 21st, 1995, I received a phone call that would change my life. A work friend of my wife called and said that Jenny had collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. When I got there, they rushed me into a private room. 4 healthcare professionals walked in and said, "Mr. Zborowski, your wife has a brain tumor." I said, "Okay, are you sure it wasn't a stroke?" To which the neurosurgeon said, "Well, if you want a second opinion, fine." I said, "Well, honestly, sir, I have no idea what to ask." So, after 5 days and no change in her condition because they were giving her drugs to shrink the swelling of the tumor because they said it was non-cancerous, the symptoms of right side paralysis and speech, no change. So he went and did further investigation, came back, and rather sheepishly, without the attitude this time, said, "Mr. Zborowski, she does have a brain tumor, but the reason she's here is she had a severe stroke." So the brain tumor is not causing her any problems, so we're going to send her to Wascana, rehab for rehabilitation, and we'll bring her back for surgery once that's done. Well, she fought, she scrapped, and she did everything within her power to build her speech and get back up on her feet. And on December 1st, 1995, she walked back into the Plains Hospital to get her surgery, which was an amazing, amazing feat. But 1 year after all that started, or all that had finished, she began to experience seizure activity. And these were, apparently this is a common side effect of strokes for anyone who knows one, about a year afterwards, if there's any brain damage, seizures will occur. For her, because she does nothing moderately, the seizures were occurring at about 8 to 10 an hour when it first started. So it was just, but with perseverance and a fantastic neurologist, the seizure disorder was gotten under control. The neurologist at the time had even left word at the desk that if she starts having a seizure, he wanted to be paged immediately, and literally he would run. Because he said seeing how the seizures were, the intensity, the length, told him how to adjust the medications. The end result of that is that she had to live with having seizures about 1 every 2 years. It's amazing to start from 8 to 10 an hour and end up with having 1 every 2 years. It was absolutely amazing. But through all this, did she give up? No, not at all. We even did some traveling with her, and it wasn't easy for her to get around. She learned to walk again. She kept walking, but it was really, really difficult for her. But no way, she was going to enjoy life to the fullest. She wasn't going to let a couple of minor health problems slow her down. However, this all changed one day in May of 2013. My daughter and I, who was at home, noticed that she wasn't responding to us. She was just sitting on the couch. At first we thought, she's having a seizure. But when the situation did not improve, I called 911. They alerted me to the fact that this could be a heart attack. During this episode, they had to restart her heart twice. And I can tell you that when you were ushered into emergency room 11, and you hear code blue, ER room 12, your own heart skips a beat while you're waiting. But anyways, they put 2 stents in her arteries, and then got the blood back to the heart muscle, but she still wasn't responding. And then the cardiologist said, "Well, I'm going to pack her in ice, literally, to reduce the stress on the heart." Well, just as they were prepping her for that, she opened her eyes and smiled. The cardiologist came and said, "He's dumbfounded." He says, "He has no answer." She just snapped right out of this. But we also noticed that she could no longer walk again. The connection from her brain to her bad leg had been severed from the lack of oxygen being pumped into the brain. So she had to go back to Wascana again for 2 months to regain her ability to walk. We brought her home at the beginning of July, and throughout July and the beginning of August, she continued to regain her strength. And then at the end of August, she fell, and She couldn't move her right leg again. So we took her to the hospital. The hospital said, well, something's going on here, definitely. So they admitted her to the hospital. And through the course of the month of September, there was an attending neurologist that came in and did this and that and tried to take care of her. Not sure what the problem was. The neurologist added a third seizure medication. Well, almost immediately following the introduction of that third seizure medication, her moods changed and we started to see an increase in seizure activity. I alerted the hospital to this and told them, she's having seizures. She has different seizures than what you're normally used to seeing. So I expected them to advise the attending neurologist because he was actually stationed at the general, and the pass was a really long ways to drive. And he never bothered to show up or follow up after they had introduced the third medication. This happened over a period of about 2 weeks. Now, I don't know what happened between the neurologist and the hospital, but at 4 a.m. on the weekend prior to Thanksgiving in 2013, the hospital called and said, Mr. Zborowski, Jenny had a grand mal seizure, aspirated into her lungs and coded. So she's in ICU on life support. So up to the hospital, we go through this. After 5 days, no change. I spoke to the attending ICU doctor. And the ICU doctor, I said, well, what's your plan? There's been no change. I said, have you been able to get a hold of the attending neurologist? And she said, no, we have not been able to get his attention. I said, well, what's your plan? And she said, I don't have one. I said, well, until you do, why don't you work mine? Again, annoyed. Does he get a little attitude from doctors? Well, what's your plan then? I said, well, I can tell you that this seizure activity started again after he introduced third medication. She said, after? And I said, yes. She said, leave it with me. Found out from the nurse later on that she phoned him personally and was screaming at him. They got him over here. He reduced her medications in 3 stages, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and she started to come out of the coma. And here she was again. Now, as tough as my wife is, this left her with a serious deficit that could hurt her. She could no longer control her impulses. So if she wants to walk, she'll just get up and fall. The connection's not there. And they weren't going to send her back to Wascana for a third trial. So we had to put her into long-term care, which is where she resides today. Now, I can tell you she's not happy there. She lets me know that most of the time. But she has this incredible, incredible determination in her. Like I've never seen in any person, ever. After all this that she has been through, she still says she's going to get home to live. And we said, yeah, I don't think so. So I just want to show you that as stubborn as she is, we were able to bring her home for Christmas. And she was able to hold her granddaughter. And that's our first granddaughter, by the way. So she was able to do that. And this is quite a feat, because if you knew our home is not wheelchair friendly. So she had to literally walk from our hallway to the toilet, which was about 10 to 12 steps every time. Now, because of balance, we had this, but she did it. And she tells me to this day, she's going to get home. And she's going to live at home. Now, I've come to realize that this woman and her fight just to be part of this life inspires me to be a better person. And I'm hoping you all get a little bit of that too. But it's also taught me how to finish that sentence. Live every day as though it were your last, because you know one day, you'll be right.